Hey everyone, I'm Jeanette. Welcome back to another video. So I had some requests to make homemade salad dressings in response to a video that I did a while back on how I make a salad more like a meal. So I'm going to run through some real simple dressings that I make here on the regular. Now sometimes I do use ones that I get from the grocery store, and in that case I just try to find the best things that I possibly can there. Those are really convenient to have on hand, but I have to say I much prefer the ones that I make because, well, for one thing, I think they taste good, and then I can always control and adjust the amounts of ingredients that I put in these so I can make them taste the way I want. When I build a dressing, I usually use some core elements. One of those is my acidic ingredient. So this is the one that's going to give it the tanginess and brightness that it needs. So I'm using things like apple cider or red wine vinegar, maybe balsamic vinegar, or lemon juice, lime juice, maybe even some orange juice. I often have this acidic component in there to give it that zinginess that the dressing needs. And sometimes I will use a little bit of water if I need to cut that and dilute it down a little bit. Another thing I typically use are my herbs and spices, even if it's something as simple as salt and pepper. So usually I'm using things like onion powder, garlic powder, dill, tarragon, Italian seasonings, chives, those kinds of things. And most of my dressings get a pinch of sea salt and some freshly cracked pepper. Depending on the dressing I'm making, sometimes I will use something to make it creamy or give it some body, if you will. So in the ranch dressing you're going to see today, I use cashew cream as the base, and then in another dressing you're going to see I use hummus. After I've combined all of those things together, then I will adjust the sweetness of the dressing and see if it needs anything like that. And my sweetener of choice is maple syrup, but if you don't like maple syrup, you can use something else or leave it out altogether. But I usually add that as one of the last ingredients to kind of round out the whole flavor of the dressing. And then sometimes I'll add a little bit of heat or spiciness with something like sriracha sauce or a pinch of red pepper flakes or maybe a pinch of cayenne pepper. Then I will go to some of my flavor boosters, I call them, something like sesame oil, where you only need a drop or two in a dressing usually to get a really pronounced sesame flavor, or maybe some sesame seeds in it. So the ingredients that I'm going to use today are ones that you could probably have on hand already in your kitchen, but if you don't have these things, don't worry about it. Or if you don't like them, you could substitute something that you do have or that you do like. For instance, I use maple syrup, but if you don't have it or you don't like that, you could always use something like date paste or some plain old sugar, or leave the sweetener out altogether. Okay, to make my ranch dressing here, I'm going to be using some cashew cream that I made, and that's just equal amounts of cashews and water in a blender, and I'm using about 2 to 3 tablespoons of the cashew cream. To that I'm adding 1 teaspoon of red wine vinegar, a pinch of sea salt, and about 1/4 teaspoon of onion powder and 1/4 teaspoon of garlic powder. And a little bit of dill, and some freshly cracked pepper. For this vinaigrette-inspired dressing, I'm starting with a couple tablespoons of water and 1 tablespoon of apple cider vinegar, a pinch of sea salt, 1/4 teaspoon each of onion powder and garlic powder, about 1/4 teaspoon of Italian seasoning, and a pinch of black pepper. and I'm going to be adding about a half a teaspoon of maple syrup. Now to make a vinaigrette, if you use oil, you can use a little bit of olive oil perhaps in this, but for me, I'm going to be using Dijon mustard to help pull this together and give it some substance, so I'm using about a teaspoon. Then give it a shake, and there is my vinaigrette type dressing. To make hummus dressing, you can certainly use your own homemade, but this is one of my favorite store-bought ones, and it's already pretty heavily seasoned with vinegar and lemon juice, so I'm not going to be adding any of that stuff, but I'm adding 2 tablespoons of hummus and 2 tablespoons of water, a pinch of sea salt, 1/8 of a teaspoon of onion powder, 1/8 of a teaspoon of garlic powder, a pinch of black pepper, 1 teaspoon of maple syrup, and taste your dressings as you go along. This one really didn't need much else than what I put in it, and there's the final product. Alright, this last one just starts with some seasoned rice vinegar. Seasoned rice vinegar already has salt and sugar in it, so keep that in mind as you add other ingredients. I'm going to add about a teaspoon of tamari, or you could use soy sauce or Bragg's liquid aminos for this. About a 1/4 teaspoon of garlic powder, and just a pinch of ginger powder. I'm also going to use a pinch of red chili flakes, and 2 drops of sesame oil. If you're oil free, you can just omit this, but it does add a lot of flavor. Half a teaspoon of maple syrup, and I did need to add a little bit of water, about 2 tablespoons, to thin it out and cut the acidity. And then I used a couple small pinches of sesame seeds. Alright, so I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. Leave me a comment down below. Let me know if you try any of these or how you make your own dressings, and we can share ideas with each other. Of note, my dad and I just filmed a Gary's Kitchen, which should be great. He did his seitan tacos, which I have to say were out of this world. And he made some black bean pudding, which was fantastic. Now, I am still working on my cookbook, and that's where my focus has been. The first draft is almost done. I'm hoping to have it done this week. Then I need to proofread it and do all those good things to make it look pretty, hopefully for release sometime late in the fall, early winter. But in the meantime, I'm gonna try to get this video for Gary's Kitchen edited and get that out there, because I know you guys have been asking how he's doing, and my dad's doing great. So that's it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for joining me, and I will see you guys in the next video. Have a great day.